So let's start with Proverbs 1:7. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Okay, so this is where I really want you to focus and meditate on this. So our Bibleitic for fear is faithful to his word, expressive in worship, awestruck at holiness, reverent to his name. So if we zoom out a little, the fear acrostic is a part of a bigger theme, which is a discipleship book under fasting. So it's FAST. The F is fear, the A is abide, the S is seek, and the T is trust. By my count, there are 77 mentions of a fast in Scripture. So yes, we need to be fasting. Why do we fast? Do we change God's mind? Of course not. He is immutable. He knows the future. But what we do is we align our will to his, and it is an acknowledgement that we need him in an abnormal way, more than just him providing and us taking a breath every day, which is a miracle in and of itself. But this is a different kind of awareness that we are showing our dependence on him, whether it is some kind of trial that we're going through or where that is a need for deeper understanding of the scripture, an issue in the church that we're dealing with. But we need to be fasting. And when we fast, Jesus is clear, don't look like the hypocrites and draw attention to yourself. You seek him, and that is the point. It is going to be a challenge. So let's focus here, and this is where we focus in our fast. So Solomon makes it a point to discuss how important it is to fear God. And if you're regenerated, reborn, to fear God looks different, because he tells us to come boldly to the throne room. But his point is that when we fear rightly, it is getting out of his parameters for our lives, whether that is due to sin, a temptation of the world, whatever that is. It is a fearful thing to get outside his parameters. So let's see here. Solomon starts with the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. Let's look at Proverbs 9, I'm sorry. So he goes on to start it with, it is the beginning of knowledge. Well, Proverbs 10, he goes on to say, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, not just knowledge. And the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding. So he goes on to claim, or to make the statement that it is the beginning of knowledge, then it's the beginning of wisdom. And I would say Solomon triples down on that and says in Ecclesiastes, it's not just the source and the beginning of wisdom. It's not entire wisdom, but it is the beginning, making the point that we are to seek it continually. But he goes on to say, let us hear the conclusion of the whole matter. The entire meaning of life is to fear God and keep his commandments, for this is man's all. Like the Puritans say, the Puritans tell us the chief end of man. The chief end of man is to glorify God and enjoy him for all of eternity. That is the very chief end of man. And if we're not glorifying God here, we're not going to want to glorify him there. And if we're not glorifying God here, we have a lot of self-examination that needs to happen. And that is a lot of problem with eisegetical teaching in the churches today. It is elevation of man. It is what can I do to get God's favor and God's blessing? And that is just not the way Scripture is intended. It is not eisegetical, yet exegetical. And let's go into the Scripture and take current time and go back to authorial intent of the writer's time, and let's draw out what the Scripture means. So the lesson today is focus on the fear of the Lord. And what does that mean? Not what does that mean to you? What does God want us to take away as that meaning? So faithful to his word, Jesus is clear. If you love me, you will obey me. How can you obey him if you don't know his word? Expressive in worship. Does that mean speaking in tongues and singing the loudest, or going to seminary, or doing Bible study? Certainly not. David tells us, a broken and a contrite heart you will not despise. It is brokenness. There is a very real awareness of the fight that we're in to deny self, the temptations of the world, and the sin of our flesh. There is a parallel of God's holiness and our sinfulness. And the more holy you see God, the more sinful you see self. And that is that awestruck at his holiness. Do churches focus on the attributes of God? I mean, really think about this. Do they talk about his jealousy and his wrath, his righteous wrath? Do we hear about that? Or do we hear, do these things and God is going to bless you? And we know that test that Job went through, Satan is saying, you just blessed Job. He doesn't really want you, God. He wants the stuff that you give him. And we clearly see that some of that was in Job. It is the stuff that that Satan said he will turn from you if you take all his things. And if you see Job in that light, you understand we are to seek God for who he is. Like some of the reformers say, if Jesus descends to hell, I want to be there with him only. I don't care about the stuff. I don't care about anything else but Christ. Give me Christ. And that, if you understand those 3 points, you will get a reverence to his name. This will change you. This will deepen your understanding of who Yahweh God Creator is. You will have a deeper understanding of his glory, and it could drive a sane man absolutely mad when you get into the scriptures and go deeper.